bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio. For the masses. Yeah, today's Monday, April 6th, 2020. "97 days into the new year. Only 279 days left. We are live from a bunker. A bunker that is somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south. Far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planets. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? All right, it's Monday. Kicking off another great week here on Fade to Black tonight. Joshua P. Warren. Yeah, man. Joshua's back, and tonight, a full night of ghosts and the paranormal. That's what we're going to do tonight. Yeah. Especially after playing Diablo 3 all weekend. Having dreams about that nightmare. That is Diablo 3. Oh, man. Have you guys played Diablo 3 yet? And Diablo 2, Diablo 1. I'm already off into that. I said to Rita before the show, you dreaming about that? You dreaming about that game? Man, the carnage. Oh, man. It's brutal, man. It's brutal. It's a lot of fun, too. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, so there you go. Gonna get my scare on tonight with Joshua P. Warren. Tomorrow night, Chuck Zukowski is back. Yeah. You know, I'm going to give a shout out to Debbie. I know she's listening right now. She sent me an email last week. And there you go. That's all I got to say. Right on, Deb. And Chuck Zukowski is here tomorrow night. We're going to be talking about the supernatural, the paranormal, and UFOs across the United States. The 37th parallel. That's going to be tomorrow night, Chuck Zukowski. Wednesday night, Paola Harris is here. And we are also going to do a full night of UFOs, alien and ET contact updates. We're going to be doing that and discussing our community from one of the leaders of this community. And, of course, she is the boss and the head cook and chief bottle washer over at Starworks USA. And you can go to starworksusa.com and check out her conference that's going to be going on in Laughlin, Nevada. I am going to be there along with Rita and the rest of the Fadernauts and the team from Fade to Black. So that will be Wednesday night. Thursday night is another Fader night, and we will be giving away another four Fade to Black memberships to those in need and who are staying at home. We're going to do that Thursday night. We gave away not 4, but we gave away 6 memberships last Thursday. And we are just finishing the setup for that. So that should be done tomorrow. And so congratulations to everybody that won those Fade to Black memberships. Very cool. So you will be an active Fadernaut officially tomorrow. Okay, you can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can start your social media connection with this program at JChurchRadio. Do it right there. Okay. All right. And any questions or comments during the show tonight for myself or Joshua, use hashtag F2BQ on Twitter. The Sandbox is hashtag F2B on Twitter. For all of you out there that are new to the program, you've seen, maybe you've watched, and you've heard, but tonight's your first night in. All right, tonight's your first night in. We have a bunch of ways to hang out with the show in real time. We have 2 chat rooms, one over at Spreaker. We have one over at KGRA The Planet. We have the Sandbox on Twitter. The chat rooms stay live in front of me, and so does Twitter. So they're right there. And any questions or comments that you have, post it right there, and I'll get it. And if you're lucky, and it's good, maybe I'll read it on the air. You can also email Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Okay. I've been mentioning this now for the last 2 weeks on the show. Now is the time to get your immune system in check. Don't delay any further. I know we all like to procrastinate and put it off. I'll worry about my health tomorrow. I'll start taking vitamins tomorrow. Worry about supplements next week. It's not that big of a deal because I feel fine. That's not how it works. Get your immune system in check now. The time is now. Visit getthetea.com. Go straight to their specials page. It's all simple to do. The road to good health and your immune system being at its peak performance is happening right now. Just go to getthetea.com. Just click on the banner over at our site and use the promo code FADER, F-A-D-E-R, to get free shipping on all orders over $50. Getthetea.com, promo code FADER. And last week we made the big announcement, very happy and proud to announce our latest sponsor, our newest sponsor here at Fade to Black, which is Billy Carson's Forbidden Knowledge TV. That's right. Simple to get to, too. Just click on the banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. Take you straight to it, forbiddenknowledge.tv. This is Billy's new internet TV network that he built for this community. The links and banners are up over at our site, and I encourage all of you to go and check out all of the amazing programming that he has got right now over at forbiddenknowledge.tv, completely free for 3 days to go and check out. And I think he's got, 1,000 episodes up over at the site. That's amazing. Go and check it out right now, forbiddenknowledge.tv. And also last week, we made the announcement that River Moon Coffee is now available on Amazon. And you can visit their Amazon store if you're an Amazon Prime Fadernaut. It's already discounted coffee. We've got an additional 5% promo code. I'm going to give that to you in a second. And you also get, if you're an Amazon Prime Fadernaut, you get free shipping, right? So right now, use the promo code JimmyRMC, no spaces. I think you got to use all caps. I think. I forgot to check up on that over the weekend. I was too busy playing Diablo 3. Jimmy RMC is the promo code. You get an additional 5% off an already discounted price. And we also announced last week It's going to be available here any day now. Our newest Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee, and it's called Game Changer. Yeah. Right? River Moon Coffee. You can visit their website too, rivermooncoffee.com. All right. I don't know if you heard this yet. Let's get to the breaking news. Atlas. Have you heard about Atlas? Atlas is a ginormous green comet that at this point you can now see it with the naked eye and with binoculars. You don't need a ginormous telescope. That's right, because Atlas is 5 times the size of Jupiter and about half the size of our sun. And it's going to appear brighter than Venus from Earth by the end of April. It's currently close to Mars' orbit right now, but it's increasing speed as it makes its way towards the sun and will make its closest approach to Earth April 30th. Can you believe it? When it gets towards the inner solar system, it will become one of the brightest objects in the night sky and potentially the comet of a generation. Atlas atmosphere right now has grown in diameter to 447,387 miles. Our sun has a diameter of 865,000 miles. Jupiter's diameter is only 86,000 miles. Earth is only 7,900 miles. This thing is 447 miles in diameter. It's huge. It was discovered by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System in Hawaii back in December of 2019. Hence the name Atlas. How exciting is that? Right? In 3 weeks, we're going to be looking up at a giant green comet hanging up in the night sky. It's going to be really cool. Well, this happened on Friday, and we weren't on the air on Friday, but I wanted to mention this because it's pretty incredible. A fire had spread through a grassy area of Southwest Florida International Airport, and that fire has destroyed thousands of rental cars. And if you haven't seen the video, it's incredible to watch. The blaze began Friday, spanned 15 acres, and originally involved only 20 cars in this grassy rental car overflow area at the airport in Fort Myers, Florida. By the time it was extinguished, the flames had destroyed more than 3,500 rental cars. Airport kept operating. Nobody was injured. Sky drops of water, and pretty incredible. And like I said, nobody got hurt. Just an incredible video to see 3,500 cars going up in flames. Now, I got some good news for you Tiger King fans out there. Have you seen Tiger King yet? Are you the last people in America to not have watched Tiger King? You need to check out Tiger King. But anyway, if you have watched it, and you got to the end, and it ended, fairly recently because it had the conviction of Joe Exotic. And if you haven't seen it, well, I just gave you the spoiler. He goes to jail, goes to prison for 22 years. But Netflix is going to air another episode of The Tiger King. They just wrapped filming of it right now, and this will be episode number 7. And is expected to air nearly immediately, either in late April or early May. Tiger King. I said to somebody the other day on Twitter, I forget who it was. I don't want to. Anyway, I can't remember. I said it's got everything. It's a redneck soap opera with meth, murder, right? Big cats. I forget the list of stuff that it's crazy. It's just, man. You got a love triangle between 3 dudes and oh man, no teeth. It's all in there. Man, that is just you got con men, con women, dead, missing husbands. A few of them, actually. Crazy. Just crazy. Check out Tiger King. I couldn't believe it. When I watched the first episode, I was like, I don't know quite where this is going. Oh, by the way, for all the animal lovers out there, there isn't anything I don't like. No videos with animals being hurt. I don't watch that stuff. But I was expecting something like that in this. No, so you can just buy it. It's cool. I had no idea that you could buy a big cat, a tiger, for like $2,000. Who knew that? I mean, you got to have a place to put it, and everything. You're not going to get a tiger if you have an apartment. But I didn't know. You can get a tiger for $2,000. Anyway, watch Tiger King. All right. You want to brighten your day? Brighten your night? Well, check it out. The biggest and brightest of the spring's full supermoons is happening tomorrow night. A supermoon, as everybody knows, it's a full moon or a new moon that occurs when the satellite is within 90% of its closest approach to Earth, appearing 7% larger and 15% brighter than normal. Now, this closest approach point is known as the perigee, which is an average distance of about 226,000 miles from Earth. Tomorrow's pink supermoon, or super pink moon, they're also calling it, will be the biggest and brightest of all of 2020. That's right, coming in at 221,000 miles. Now, it's happening tomorrow night, April 7th, and will be the second of 6 to take place this year. So get ready for that tomorrow night. All right. Let's get straight to it. Let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Paul Rudd. I said it. Now, check this out. Paul Rudd today is 51 years old. And here's his biggest movies. I just want you to listen to this. Ant-Man, Anchorman, and I Love You, Man. What is it with Paul Rudd in movies that have man in the title? It's just an observation. Okay. Zach Braff today is 45, funny guy, Scrubs. Michael Rooker, one of my favorite actors, today is 65 years old. Of course, he starred in Guardians of the Galaxy. And one of my favorite singers of all time today, except frontman Udo Dirkschneider, today is 68 years old. Now, what do you think of when you Udo Dirkschneider? Balls to the Wall. That's right. One of the greatest rock and roll songs in the history of the known universe. Great hook, too. Man, everything about that song is great. Udo Dirkschneider, today, he's like this tall. That's right. I think he is about an inch taller than Ronnie James Dio. He's about that big. All right. Guitarist Warren Haynes today, the Allman Brothers Band. Guitar god, actually. Warren Haynes today is 60 years old. All right. On this day in history, OTD, the great 1968. It went down. The greatest, bestest, and most respected science fiction film of all time, 2001: A Space Odyssey, is released in theaters. Fader fact. Okay, here you go. I'm going to rant about this tonight. Fader fact. J.J. Thomson won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1906 when he showed electrons were particles. His son, G.P. Thomson, won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1937 for showing that electrons are waves. Go figure. There you go. That's your fader fact. All right, let me hit this River Moon coffee. Man, that's good coffee. River Moon coffee. All right, rivermooncoffee.com. You see what that does to me? It works. rivermooncoffee.com. You can do that too. You can do that right there. All right. Can we talk? In Brian Greene's new book, Until the End of Time, he covers everything what consciousness may be. He explores that as a physicist. The beginning of time and the eventual end of everything, and pretty much everything in between as well. He explores one subject that is totally mind-blowing and very difficult to wrap your head around, and that is that eventually everything will just end. It's going to stop. It's going to cease to exist. You see, our universe is about 13.8 billion years old, and we know this for a few reasons, but there is one thing that we do know is that light, energy, and particles are here in the now, and everything is at least, 13.8 billion years old. Our Earth and Sun are around 4.8 billion years old. Now, we are told that energy always exists, doesn't go anywhere. It's what we're taught. Our sun will last about another 10 billion years in its current form, by the way. It will eventually burn out, but it will be around another trillion years or 2 trillion years just hanging out there. Little red dwarf, little white dwarf, about that big, just hanging out there. Dense, but just hanging out there for a couple of trillion years. Small red dwarfs are thought to last for trillions of years. Now, these are really big numbers. You talk about the Earth being 4.8 billion years old, the sun 10 billion years, the universe 13.8. These are big numbers, trillions of years, red dwarfs, white, the huge numbers, huge expanses of time for sure. But in the vast scale of time, these are actually very small digits. That's right. And this is where things start to get strange. You see, the constituents of atoms, which are protons, neutrons, and electrons, will eventually die. That's right. They will fall apart and stop making things. Trippy, right? Right now, the concept that we understand is that they, atoms and their particles, last forever. Right? But apparently they do not. This is easy to believe that everything lasts forever because our planet Earth is made up of these things, these atoms and these particles, right? And hey, it's been around for 5 billion years. It's going to be around for 5 billion more. Wow. So what do we have to worry about? What do we have to think about? What do we have to contemplate? Well, let's push things out to the future a little bit. And let's take a look at where we will be, right? Because sooner or later, we will have to leave this planet and find someplace else to hang out. And we will, right? We have to. Will it be on another planet in our galaxy? Don't know. Or will we just live on a giant spacecraft cruising around deep space? Possibly. It will definitely be one or the other. Probably both. Now, here's the dark part. Trillions and trillions of years in the future, while roaming the stars, our vast fleet of communal star cruisers will, wait for it, just dissolve. They will dissolve into nothing, and so will we. Those atoms and their building blocks of protons and neutrons and electrons will stop being themselves. Poof. Gone. lifeless micro stardust. Everything that binds us together will be gone. And there's nothing we can do about it. Eventually, our universe will expand. And as it does, it will flicker out. We're going to have darkness everywhere. Our consciousness, our consciousness, which may be balls of energy floating around the stars, containing all of our memories and history, will vanish as well. That's right. There will be nothing left to show anyone our greatness. Wait, did I just say show anyone else? How could this be if everything has ended, right? There shouldn't be anyone else out there. Let me continue. There is a problem that Brian Greene brings up, and it's starting to be discussed right now in the world of physics and science, and that is that our Big Bang was just a little pop in the vastness of all that there is. Big bangs happen all the time. Our universe, its bang, and our measurement of time are localized. Space is infinite, and it continues on forever. Out there, particles and atoms are created all the time. New universes are created, new life, galaxies, solar systems, just like ours. Trillions and trillions and trillions of years in the future, we will be driving through the universe, a universe that has just ended. Another universe next to ours that expanded over, with all of its life and its history dissolved into nothingness. We will have no evidence of the worlds that came before us. It's the same for the new universe that is next door, that was just born. Its life created, and as they start to do the same thing that we are doing now, which is travel to the stars and take a trip maybe through our part of space, where we once called home. But there'll be nothing for them to see. There'll be nothing of us, nothing of what we knew, nothing of what we created. They'll never know. The size of space and what time really may be is something so large and long, we really can't grasp it. When we start to examine it closer, okay, as we are now, okay, in the now, our lifespan for each human really starts to get small, really, really, really short. The entire existence of humanity, all of it from beginning to end, will also be very, very short. We've always been told that nothing lasts forever, and today Brian Greene is certainly suggesting that this is true. Those ultra-dependable atoms, those protons, those neutrons, and electrons all have a lifespan just like us and will eventually just peter out. Poof. Gone. Yeah, it may be far, far into the future, but nothing lasts forever. So what do we do? Well, we know that we live on this big, beautiful blue planet. We've got some great food. We've got great weather. Life is pretty good most of the time, and we should truly make the best of it while we are still here. The average person lives to be 70 years old. That is about 25,550 days on this planet. I'm 56 years old, which gives me only about 5,110 days left to make the best of it. And you should too. Seriously. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Joshua P. Warren. That's right. We're going to be doing ghosts and the paranormal all night long. Stay right there. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
OMG! People are jumping on board to the Life Change Tea Regiment. Brew, steep, and drink for a gentle, taste-great cleanse. It's changing how they feel. See what everybody's talking about. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Life Change Tea aids in digestive slowdown and helps people get moving down a healthy path. We won't make claims. We'll just let you decide. Experience is much better than a commercial anyway. If you want results, log on to getthetea.com and purchase your super strength cleansing tea. You won't be disappointed. And if you're looking for some mind-body suggestions, go to YouTube and punch in the search bar Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. Put power into your health now. So, getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com for super strength tea. And YouTube, Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now for valuable suggestions. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Matthew. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Joshua P. Warren. He is back. We're going to do a full night of Ghosts in the Paranormal. Tomorrow night, Chuck Zukowski. Chuck Zukowski is back. We are going to talk Bigfoot and UFOs, the 37th parallel. Wednesday night, Paola Harris is back with us. Going to do a rundown on all the UFO news around the world. Thursday night is another Fader night, and we will be not only having open lines all night long, but we're going to give away another 4 Fade to Black memberships to those in need and who are staying at home. Tonight, it is Joshua P. Warren. Joshua is an investigator who pioneers the amazing relationship between the mind, energy, matter, and strange phenomena. The author of over 20 best-selling books, including Use the Force, A Jedi's Guide to the Law of Attraction, and The Wishing Machine Handbook. He has appeared on numerous TV programs on History, Discovery, Nat Geo, Animal Planet, Sci-Fi, TLC, and has starred on the Travel Channel series Paranormal Paparazzi. He travels the world investigating mysterious phenomena and made the cover of a science journal in 2004 for lab experiments regarding energy fields in nature related to the Brown Mountain Lights. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only Joshua P. Warren. Joshua, good evening, man. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Jimmy. Great to be with you.
You know what, Joshua, I'm going to start off here. Finally, after all of these years, we got to hang out. Okay, so we get to hang out, and we have never met. And Rita and I are walking up, and you were standing with a group of people outside of the building that we were going to, and I saw you from a block away, and I turned to Rita and I go, "That's Joshua right there." So anyway, we step up, and this is what I didn't know. I didn't know that you were that tall. And there's something else that goes with that. You're in black. You got the black fedora. You got the thing. You got and you're tall, and you got the voice. You are the paranormal, man. You are. You live it. Do you realize that?
Well, thank you. That is a wonderful compliment. And yeah, it's true. I can't distinguish between my private personal life and my paranormal research. It's all just one big experience. But I'm happy to hear that you were satisfied with my presentation.
It was so cool. And then really quick, I want to tell everybody what we did. We ended up going out to dinner after your presentation there. And we don't need to discuss that. We'll save that for another time. But anyway, we go out to dinner. And I'm trying to think. There was five of us. It was Laura Cantu, Rita, myself, and Lauren, and yourself. So I can't add that up. Is that 5 or 6? And
yeah, that's 5. Uh-huh.
Five. And we went to, what's the name of the place that we went to?
It's called the Pepper Mill.
The Pepper Mill. Okay. Yeah. The Pepper Mill, for those that don't know, in Vegas, is so we don't know what to expect. We go in, and we go into the lounge, and the lounge is this very elegant, by the way, very, very nice, but 50s kitsch that's looking into the future kitsch. Right? It's like the 50s version of what they thought 2020 would be, but it's like you're stuck in a time warp thing. And what a great atmosphere. And we were able to just sit and talk for the evening, and we just had a great time, and I want to thank you for that. It was just absolutely amazing.
Well, you're welcome. It was a pleasure to enjoy that evening with all of you. And of course, the great thing about the Pepper Mill is it captures that sort of atmosphere that people used to expect from Vegas, where, like you said, it's kind of kitschy and gaudy, but at the same time, it's somehow sort of elite, and it's got the whole like Rat Pack vibe. And there's fountains and flames and dim lighting, and they actually have shot a number of movies there, including a famous scene from the movie Casino, where Robert De Niro is sitting there next to Sharon Stone. So it's that caliber of place, and so it was a delight to be able to share that with you and Rita and Lauren and Laura. And Lauren and I had a wonderful time, and it kind of felt like we've known each other forever.
Yeah, well, and now I don't want to disappoint anybody. We talked UFOs and the paranormal for about 3 or 4 straight hours. We never deviated off of that conversation. It was just incredible. And, to be sitting there with you dressed in black in that place and talking about UFOs and our experiences, it was just a perfect evening on the Strip. It was an amazing time.
Well, you know what? I even mentioned to you that it's funny how that you and I both have created these lifestyles, I guess, where basically even when you're going out to socialize, it's paranormal. You just can't get away from it. That's it. Now,
what I wanted to do, okay, I'm going to circle back to one of the conversations we had that night at the Pepper Mill, okay? But I want to start off here, and then we're going to go into that conversation. There's a reason why I brought up the Pepper Mill. Why is it, Joshua, that people like to get scared? We are playing Diablo 3 right now, Rita and I. It's this video game that is absolutely scary. It's visually stunning and scary and bloody and all of that. and you can't get enough of it. You can't walk away from the game. You just want to get more scared and more terrified and have more fun doing it. I'm just like everybody else. Why is that? Is it our DNA? Why do we like to get scared?
I think perhaps I must agree with Alfred Hitchcock's response to that question so many years ago. He said, people like to experience fear when they know in the back of their mind they're actually safe. And so, in other words, if you are in a truly scary situation, you want to be out of that as soon as possible. If somebody's chasing you down through, trying to kill you with the machete, that's not fun if it's happening in real life. But if you actually know that you're safe, then I believe that you can appreciate these things as an adrenaline rush. There's a lot of thrill seeking going on there. I mean, why do people enjoy a roller coaster? It's that same thing. Now, occasionally the roller coaster flies apart and people die, but most of the time you believe you're going to end that, safely. And so I think it goes to the fact that we just enjoy all kinds of different feelings and experiences in life. You might watch a sad movie one day and then a funny movie the next day and then an action movie the next day, depending on what mood you're in. And I think the experience of fear is exhilarating, more so for some than others. And that is why we have this whole culture, this whole industry built around allowing you to feel that without being in any real danger.
Now, the other part of this is those that actually go out and invite the scare, invite the danger, where they're out hunting ghosts or they're going to sacred sites. They're invoking and they're saying things and, they're poking the eye of the bear, with a stick, so to speak. You do that too. You're out there. You're going to these haunted places. So I'm going to ask you, you're not necessarily in a safe place, but you're jumping in with both feet, aren't you?
I have on many, many occasions. There are things that I no longer would do that I have done in the past. Literally trying to conjure up the devil and stuff like that, just to see if it works.
Right.
I probably wouldn't do that anymore. But the fact of the matter is, I have always been interested in this from a slightly different angle than the average person. I think that most of the people who go out there looking into these things, they truly are expecting to have some kind of a thrill. And for me, this may be a little bit more boring, but I've always been intrigued with how these things physically manifest, how they physically materialize, and whether or not there is some way we can tap into that in order to create a power supply that we can use for all kinds of different reasons. So in other words, if we have a ghost and all of a sudden in the middle of this empty room, we have this large luminous form that appears and electricity is crackling and popping all around, where the heck is that energy physically coming from? And so I've always been intrigued with trying to understand the relationship between these different planes of existence. And because of that, sometimes I have ended up in a very scary situation before I realized I was in a very scary situation, because sometimes my nose was stuck a little too much in the meter or in the video camera. And then all of a sudden I say, holy crap, something really scary is happening here. And now I have to deal with it.
Well, and I was listening, this is about 2 weeks ago, and I'm listening to an interview with physicist Sean Carroll, who's one of those rock star physicists these days, and I really enjoy his work. But he said something that really took me back, and I didn't dig it. He was asked about life after death and ghosts, right? And remember, all of this is in the middle of a discussion about parallel worlds and the multiverse and multiple versions, infinite versions of you and I and so forth. And he said, well, when it comes to ghosts and life after death and the paranormal, that stuff isn't real. And I don't have the time to even think about them. Now, it really, you're listening to a physicist who is trying to convince you about his work and the multiverse and parallel worlds and extra dimensions and multiple versions of us and Schrodinger's cat and all of this. But yet he doesn't think that ghosts are real when he's explaining physics at that point that is saying that ghosts are real. I don't get it. And one day science is going to head on, crash into the paranormal world and find out what's really happening out there.
Oh, sure. And in fact, if you understand a little about all these different subjects from multiple perspectives, you could say that it's easy to sort of seamlessly tie it all together right now. The problem is that people who become an expert in one area or another, they have blinders on to all of these other perspectives on the same subject matter. So, for example, I watched a documentary maybe a couple years ago, and it was about how all of these biologists knew things that physicists and chemists didn't know, and the chemists knew things that the biologists didn't know, and the physicists knew things that, and so they all have to come together sometimes, and a lot of it is just restricted by terminology and language.
Right.
I mean, what he calls some kind of multiplanar quantum field or whatever, I might call a spirit. And so you have to be a little versatile in your language, because I think if we can get our language to match up a little bit more, we'll realize that more often than not, we're talking about the same things. And people who especially are getting a paycheck from a big university, they don't want to become stigmatized by associating with terminology that's used by somebody who's not as educated in their view. And so a lot of it just has to do with ego. But you find that if we are indeed living in a universe, that means it's one thing, it's all connected. And if there is a unified truth, then there should be many different paths that all lead to that same single unified truth.
There's another element to this. And I want a yes or no answer from you first before I follow, which is this. Do you think that you have to want to observe the paranormal in order to see it? And right? Do you understand what I'm saying? And if you don't want to see it, you're never going to see it. What do you think about that?
No, I don't think that's correct. I think that it is more common for someone to see the paranormal and then dismiss it and explain it away if you're the type of person who's not looking for it, because you say, well, that couldn't have been what it looked like it was.
Right.
But on the other hand, that's why I have been so adamant throughout my life, and I've been investigating the paranormal professionally for about 27 years. I've been so adamant about documenting things. And so fortunately, most of the times in my life, when I have experienced something extreme, I have it video recorded or at least photographed. And honestly, on many of those occasions, if I had not done that, I would have second guessed myself, because people forget the fact that paranormal means it's not normal. It doesn't usually happen. And these are rare things. And that's why when you watch all these television shows that become silly because they exaggerate the smallest things, they're trying really, really hard to make it look like something big is happening when big things don't happen very often. And so that makes it look like, in general, if you're judging the field only based upon that type of entertainment, that everybody is out there just making mountains out of molehills. But in reality, when you spend time studying this like I have, and there are a lot of great researchers out there who've devoted their lives to this, you understand that you might have to observe a location for a year in order to capture one or two anomalies. So the database there is very limited, and that's one of the reasons it makes it difficult to study. But also, you find that when you have, for example, the scientist you were talking about, he said, I don't even have the time to think about ghosts or whatever. Well, that's in essence also what he's saying, that this is a very time-consuming thing because it is rare and much rarer than the entertainment business would lead you to believe.
Right. And for him to be so dismissive of it because science and, well, education and universities, is supposed to be about expanding, right? Questioning and fixing and moving on, right? And exploring, not shutting it down, right? And not wondering. And for Sean Carroll to go, nah, ghosts aren't real, so why waste my time on it? It's just an immediate closed down thought process that I just don't think should exist in science at all.
Well, not only that, but I doubt he even gave us his definition of what a ghost is. And that's important because ghosts are real at very least in terms of the human experience. People say they see ghosts. So whatever they are, now that becomes a different conversation.
Right.
But there's no doubt that this is a real phenomenon. And it reminds me of, one time I was doing a radio program and we took a call and the caller said, well, there's no way that ghosts can exist because the Bible says that when you die, your soul goes to heaven or hell or whatever, and it doesn't stick around here. And I said, well, you are assuming that a ghost is the soul of a living thing. We have ghosts of inanimate objects. I mean, we have ghost trains and ghost stagecoaches and ghost ships. I mean, you have people who not only see the ghost of the old farmer, but also the old farmhouse behind him. And so we're not just defining a ghost as the spirit of a living thing. It's broader than that. And so that's the first thing we have to deal with when anybody is going to comment on the reality of ghostly phenomena. I like to know what that person's talking about. I'm happy to give my definition, but my definition is probably going to be a little broader and maybe makes you think about things that you are not considering when you use that word.
When you look at evidence, what's your favorite? Is it old film? Right? Analog. Is it digital cameras? Is it digital recording? Or is there another measurement that you like to consider?
Well, at the end of the day, we all know the adage, you've got to see it to believe it. So I can show you some just fascinating data of electromagnetic anomalies or electrostatic fields or different types of radiation that corresponds to someone having an experience. But ultimately, you really need to get a good image. And we've reached the point now where we have a lot of really fascinating, authentic paranormal imagery. What we are lacking in still is having it captured from multiple points of view at the same time so that you can at least see it in 3D. Because if you're going to gauge the physical characteristics of something on a piece of footage, you really need to see it from more than one point of view. And if you do that, you can tell how big it is, how it relates to other items, and its orientation to the scene. And so that's what we need to do next, is we need to start focusing more on going to places that are hot spots and ringing that whole place with cameras and then having an instrument pack in the middle. And that's a project that I'm working on right now. We call it the Mobius Mission. And I've already started this. I haven't talked too much about it because I don't want to compromise my locations. But I'm doing this. I'm going to places that have quite a reputation. I'm putting cameras around from many different points of view with an instrument pack in the middle. I've already gotten some really interesting results, but I haven't hit the home run that I suspect I will someday. And when you see, I can't put a ghost in a jar or a Ghostbusters trap and then I'd put it on the shelf in my museum. I wish I could. Right. But the next best thing might be showing you this ghost from every single point of view, showing it interacting with the environment and affecting these instruments. And then when all that's done, I'll go and take a lie detector test or whatever I have to do in order to say, look, nobody's tampered with this. This is if somebody has a better idea of how to prove that an apparition has appeared, I'd love to hear it. I'm all ears. But I think that is what we need to do next, and that's where we as serious investigators need to focus.
If you and I got an H.G. Wells time machine, right? You and I, and we jump in this thing and we go to the past, or we go to the future, right? And we go somewhere. Would we physically be there, or would we be non-observable? And without upsetting the universe, right? There is a balance of particles and atoms. And if you and I jump to the future or to the past, we now are upsetting possibly the known universe. But this is the deal. Could ghosts and things that we observe today, including UFOs, merely be things from the future or from the past that are just here visiting us, and they're just out of our frequency range?
I think that's a great possibility, especially that these are beings from the future. In one of my books called The Secret Wisdom of Kukulkan, I wrote a lot about this concept in what I called the paratemporal loop hypothesis. And without going down that rabbit hole, what I will tell you is that if ever, in all of the infinite future beyond us, we or some other species figures out how to travel back in time, then we can presume that they will do it. And then the question becomes, well, yes, how physical are they, or how easily can they camouflage themselves? By the way, if you haven't seen the invisibility material that I posted online recently, you should check that out. If you go to joshuapwarren.com and click the link to the Curiosity Shop, you'll see at the bottom there's a video where I'm making things disappear. And I even make myself disappear in a busy bar in Las Vegas on a Saturday night. And this is not a magic trick. This is a material. So it's very conceivable that people in the future would know how to make themselves appear almost, if not entirely, invisible. And it's funny to me when you hear stories about shadow people, for example. Usually when someone sees a shadow person, the shadow person is kind of hiding in a corner or off to the side of the room and just sort of peeping. And as soon as the shadow person is noticed, boom, it flees, it disappears. And so if this were a person from the future who wants to observe but not mix up the timeline, then that might be how that person would behave. Of course, another possibility, which I'm sure we'll get into tonight as we talk about creepy, scary stories, is that some of these beings might actually be parasites that they don't want you to notice them, because when your back's turned, they're going to slip up there and they're going to feed off of you. And this is what we would often consider to be demonic. And so those are our options. But I do believe that if we are observed by people from the future, we can expect that their craft might often look like what we call UFOs, and that they themselves might behave in a very similar fashion to some of these sort of phantasmal figures that people report seeing around their homes.
And we're going to take a break right here, Joshua, but you bring up a point that all those physicists and theoretical physicists, quantum physicists, speak about today, which is observation and quantum measurement. When something is observed, you change its state. And that is the fundamental basics of physics. Let's take a break right here. Our guest tonight, Joshua P. Warren. When we come back, I told you, we're going to go back to the pepper mill and that conversation. We're going to do that right after this short break. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Joshua P. Warren. Joshua just posted a picture of you and I and Nick on the strip there, and you can tell I'm 6 foot tall. Look at big boy Joshua. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to forbiddenknowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, forbiddenknowledge.tv. Again, visit forbiddenknowledge.tv today.
Introducing the new Surfer Music app. Listen, Fadernauts, you know I love my music. This is my go-to for all things notes. The Surfer app is a brand new concept in music listening. Surfer is free, providing unlimited access to thousands of live streaming radio stations. Surfer is an exciting, interactive listening experience. Discovery and surprise are built right in. Surfer is your destination to discover and rediscover great live streaming music. It features high-quality audio streams, free access to music from thousands of live streaming radio stations, unlimited listening, unlimited skipping. You get a music visualizer, and you can also select your favorite channels. Get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Just search Surfer Music or click on the Surfer banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go Beckley Tepe.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com. Or to speak with a trained consultant. Give Angioprim a call at 954-882-7221. That's 954-882-7221.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Joshua P. Warren. If you missed this live show, if you miss it, just get our podcast. It's just $2 a month. Go to jimmychurchradio.com. Click on the podcast banner. We have over 1,200 archive shows right there for you. Just $2 per month. Joshua P. Warren. All right, back to the Peppermill. One of the conversations that took up some time was, don't I have a better way to put it than Art Bell's little alien gray statue. And the the statue has a name. What is it?
The statue's name is Carville. And I'm glad that you brought this up because this is not just a great story, but it actually needs to be told for historic purposes. I mean, this is I've done a lot of digging to pull together the history of this thing. And so would you like to hear the for the first time ever the complete story of Art Bell's alien statue that supposedly comes to life?
Yes, and it's amazing. And let's actually start here. His name is Carville because of James Carville, right?
Yeah, that's right. And by the way, I want to point out before, since you posted the picture with Nick there, it was so fitting because I got to meet you and Rita because you came to the Creepy Vegas Ghost and UFO show, which I produce here in Vegas. Nick Weird is the host. And yes, of course, it's on hold for the time being since we can't, everything's closed and you can't gather. But it will be back soon. So hopefully, if any of your listeners would like to come and see the show, they can go to creepyvegas.com to stay updated on when that will be available. But you guys seem to have a pretty good time there, right?
Yeah, Nick is great. I mean, you're great, but Nick really does a fantastic job. And I was there, man. I was with you guys. I was just fully engaged. I haven't posted. We're gonna get back to this a little bit later. I haven't posted the pictures. I've been sitting on them of the skull. Now, yeah, and I'm just gonna let everybody know I have never, to my memory, I have never seen an actual human skull in, museums and stuff. But to go up, and that night I ended up seeing 3. Right? Yes, just like man. But anyway. And the photographs that I have, I'll ask you, is it okay if I post them later on in the show?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, you will be the first person. I have never even posted a picture of it's the skull. Well, let me put it this way. If you know the story of the Bell Witch from Tennessee, it is one of the freakiest, scariest stories that you probably ever read about. And goes back to the 1800s. And we call this the Bell Witch. I'll just leave it at that. But getting back to Carville the alien. So here's the complete story. In 1998, there was a man in Delaware, a woodcarver named Darren Hussey. And Darren, he was making a lot of money in the 1990s taking advantage of the cigar craze that was going on and carving these traditional wooden cigar store Indians, right? Those were in big demand, and he was cranking those out. Well, he used to listen to Rush Limbaugh just about every day while he was working. And one day, Darren was at a gas station, and he saw a copy of, I think it was the Weekly World News, one of those cheesy tabloids, and it had a picture of Rush Limbaugh on the front next to an alien. And they were trying to say that Rush was somehow in alliance with the aliens and that they were going to push him into Earth politics or something like that. Well, anyway, Darren got a kick out of this. And so he decided, being a fan of Rush Limbaugh, that he would, instead of carving a cigar store Indian, he would carve a 4-foot-tall wooden alien statue that weighed about 100 pounds. And he did a fine job on this alien statue. And then he happened to be near New York. He was taking an order somewhere, and he was driving near Rush's studio at the time there, WABC in New York. Mm-hmm. And so he actually stopped his truck. He took Carville the alien inside to the reception area and dropped this off and said, "This is a gift for Rush." And he said, "I think he kind of looks like James Carville," which, of course, is the Democratic political pundit, one of Rush Limbaugh's sort of arch nemesis. And so that was where the name Carville came from. Well, after that, Darren, he drove away, and he never heard about this again for many, many years, probably 10 years or something like that went by before he ever knew what happened to his creation. So now we fast forward to the year, I think it was 2010, I believe is when it was. I was actually in California filming an episode of Ghost Adventures on the Travel Channel. And I received a phone call from my associate Mobius, who had been in contact with Art Bell. And of course, I had been on Art's radio program a number of times. He interviewed me many times. And Art called me and said, I have this alien statue that it has got to go. Because it's scaring the bejesus out of my wife and our new little daughter, because they're saying he's coming to life at night and running around the house. So what had transpired, I later found during that period of time, is that for about 3 years, that alien statue sat right there in Rush's studio while he was doing his show. And at one point, Rush apparently took it home, and his wife said that it turned its head and looked at her. And that's when she said, get rid of that damn thing. And so Art Bell, on March 10th of 2001, was being honored at the Marriott Hotel in Marina del Rey, California, as part of a talk radio trade convention. And so Art was sitting there on stage having a conversation with Matt Drudge, of course, who is famous for the Drudge Report. And at the end of their onstage conversation, as a surprise, Randy Michaels, who at that time was the CEO of Clear Channel, he steps out on stage and says, I have a gift for you guys. And he brings out Carvel the Alien for Art. And Art was just smitten with this thing because Art had been to Rush's studio and actually saw the alien there and had expressed, his admiration and his maybe a little jealousy, saying, oh, that should be in my studio, And so this was gifted to Art. And all this was videotaped, by the way. Art Vuelo was a man who used to just record everything in the talk radio business, and he was very kind and sent me the recording of this, which I put online. If you go to YouTube and you just do a search for Art Bell's alien statue, you'll probably see the video I posted where Art has presented this statue. And Art stands up and talks about how that when he was with Rush, that they put like a $5 bill in his hand and a cigarette or whatever, and they were just messing around with this statue. So there's no doubt that this belonged to Rush, and then Rush gave it to Art, and then it sat there in Art's studio for years. We have pictures of him in his studio with the alien. There's even a screen capture from a webcam of him there with the alien statue. So he loved this thing. And this was a huge honor for him to be given this thing. And so now when he tells me this has got to go, I could tell that it was breaking Art's heart. He didn't want to let this unique creation go, that it symbolized the honor from his peers. But he said, this is not a joke. Okay, he told me this is not a joke, that this thing is scaring them to death. And he said, if you don't get it, or if somebody doesn't get it, it's going to go in the garbage, basically. And so I'll kick myself to the day I die, Jimmy, because that was my opportunity to personally go to Art's property and meet him in person and get this thing. But there was no way I could do it because I was locked into this obligation to do this TV show. And as soon as that shoot was over, I had to fly straight to Michigan to do a paranormal conference. And I just couldn't do it. And he said, it's got to go now. So I contacted a good friend of mine who's a director in Los Angeles named Jim Castle, and a big fan of Art Bell. And so Jim and one of his buddies drove to Art's house. Art invited them in, was a wonderful, gracious host, gave them the grand tour. I mean, it was just a wonderful experience. He was the nicest guy. And then they took the alien, and I did pay for him. This was not just given to me. I did give Art about, I don't want to say how much, but I gave him some money for him. And then they shipped this thing to me in Asheville, North Carolina. And so when I got back in Asheville, from doing my shoot and my conference, like a day later, here comes this gigantic box in. And so I tore it open, and it was full of all those styrofoam peanuts, and they go pouring all over the place. And here is this legendary statue. And what's so great is that I had Jim take pictures of Art with the statue, and Art got down on his hands and knees and signed the base. And I have a picture of Art signing it. And then also Art gave me a handwritten note that had it's an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that details the provenance of all this. And so there's no doubt about the story I'm telling you. And so I thought, man, this is just incredible. I now am the owner of this amazing piece of radio history. And so I immediately started planning a press conference or something like that, where I'd invite all the media to come and tell them about this new edition I have at my museum, the Asheville Mystery Museum. And so I put the statue in the corner, very well aware of the stories surrounding him. And I started building this exhibit around him with signs, with printouts of the pictures, and had all this special lighting brought in. And so I'd planned, I think within like a couple days, all the media was going to come and do news stories on this. And so I was by myself in the studio, or in the museum, at about 11 o'clock at night, just making sure all the lighting was perfectly adjusted. And this was going to be presented as dramatically as possible. Then I left. So the next morning, I had a meeting downtown. And before the meeting, I needed to pop into the museum to pick up some papers. So I went back into the museum. And, of course, I can tell from our security pad there that I was the only person who went, who had been in since I had left the night before. And I walk in and I look over at Carvel the alien, and the entire 4-foot-tall, 100-pound wooden statue has shifted a good 25 degrees to the right. And I was immediately angry because I thought somebody somehow must have gotten access to come in here, and they're messing with me. Well, I went, and we did have a security camera, and it confirmed that nobody went in or out. Unfortunately, the camera was not pointed at Carvel, but I could tell for sure nobody went in or out. And nothing else in the entire room was disturbed. Not a single sign or a piece of paper. Only this big, heavy chunk of wood had shifted. And that's when I realized, oh, my God, this thing moved. There's no way to explain that, Jimmy. This thing moved. And so after that, I put a camera on him and did my best to try to catch him moving. And I wasn't able to catch him. But here's what recently happened. Recently, we had to close my museum down in Asheville, and that's because it was in the basement of an old Masonic temple, 107 years old, and they were having all kinds of problems with the basement. It was flooding on a consistent basis. There was major renovation that needed to be done, and I decided to just close the museum down and ship the bulk of it out here to Las Vegas, and I figured I'd just find an opportunity to display it some way out here. So I had Carvel the alien shipped over here, and I have him sitting in my living room right now with a camera on him. So I'm going to be checking that camera very soon. I haven't checked it in about a week to see if I can catch him moving here at my house. But I swear to you, when I'm in the living room late at night and I'm by myself, it doesn't feel like I'm by myself. I turn around, and Carvel's got a spirit. He's got some kind of a soul. And I really have started believing more and more that inanimate objects can become filled with life in some way. And so this is an extraordinary thing and one of my most prized possessions.
Yeah, I can't get James Carvel out of my head now when I look at him. He looks exactly, and I'm pointing at it now in the cameras. I have about a 3-foot tall alien gray statue here that's solid metal. He weighs, I don't know, he's he's got to weigh 50 pounds or more. He's pretty heavy. This guy's not moving, right? And I would definitely freak out if I came in and his angle was changed by 25 degrees. There's no way to move on the camera. Look, I'm just letting you know there's no way to move this. It's impossible. So Carville is probably a foot taller and another 50 pounds heavier than this guy. Why do things get attached to these types of inanimate objects?
Well, wood is especially interesting because, well, it's sort of like a corpse, isn't it? I mean, it was once a living thing. And so I believe that, it wasn't until I started investigating Robert the Haunted Doll down in Key West that I started really opening my mind to the idea that haunted dolls and other objects can truly become possessed. And then I started to think, especially once I interviewed some of these great witnesses, doctors and lawyers and people who have a lot to lose and nothing to gain by admitting they've seen this doll spring up and come to life. It made me think more about how that we, with all of our great grand scientific knowledge, still cannot explain the mind-body relationship. We're not sure how this thing called consciousness animates this physical form called the body, which is just going to be laying there stiff when we die. And so if we don't know exactly how the spirit connects with the physical form of a human, then why should we be so quick to dismiss the possibility that any type of a physical form might also be able to somehow connect with a spirit, especially if it is something that has the fabric, the filtering, the lattice of life, meaning cells and molecules that are organic and carbon based, like wood. And so sometimes you might be able to sort of give birth to something just by projecting a part of your spirit into it directly. And there are all kinds of different ways that life multiplies. I mean, look at these single-celled organisms that just one day they just split into two, and now you have a new one. And how we don't know how that happens, but it does. And so it could be that we have this idea about how things are given birth, but it might not have to be in the physiological way. It may be that sometimes you can just directly implant part of your spirit into something. And this also ties into why that some places might become haunted by tulpas, by things that never actually happened. But it goes back to that great story about Walter Gibson, who used to write the shadow novels in the 1920s in Greenwich Village. He would crank out 1 or 2 novels a month. And he did this for years in this little house. And after that, people who moved into the house said that the house was haunted by his fictional characters, that they would see the shadow whipping around a corner or a villain running across the hallway. And we know that these were his imaginary figures, but he was so focused on projecting this vision of these things that it seemed to have at least burned an imprint in the environment. And so if you can do that to a space like a house, think of how much more you can do if you're focusing it all on an object. And it may be that in some cases, it's easy for us to say these haunted dolls and similar objects are evil and dark because it frightens us when we see them move and do things they're not supposed to do. But it may be that they're not any more evil than you or I are. They can be vindictive if they feel like they're being mistreated, like Robert the Doll probably feels. In other cases, they may just sort of be gray personalities. It depends on what mood the thing is in. But I have definitely opened my mind to the fact that if you have something in your house that has a history and seems to have a soul, that there may actually be a soul in there. And they always say if you go to a yard sale, or you go to, flea market or some kind of place like that, and you see an object that's way, way underpriced, where it just seems to be too good to be true,
right?
Or they're just trying to give it away, well, you probably got yourself a possessed possession there.
I remember it was a few months ago. You probably caught this. It made the mainstream media about a secondhand furniture store. I think it was in Texas, was selling a haunted and possessed bedroom set. Did you see that?
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, a couple had to give it up. Yeah, a couple had to give it up, man, and they were selling it cheap, and I don't think anybody bought it. That's the other funny part. George Van Tassel once said that he was given a formula to read time and to see time 7 years in the past, that everything is recorded electromagnetically, that the universe is electric. He said this back in the 1950s and 60s. Certainly we understand more about that today. Do you feel that that is also a possibility, that everything is just recorded and we are catching glimpses of it?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And it may also transcend even that into what many mystics have called the Akashic record, that there is some vast collective library of knowledge that's sort of sitting there in a stable position, we'll say above or atop all of us, even though that's just a way of visualizing it, and that your brain is just a little antenna that connects you to one part or another of the Akashic record. But what's funny is that even though that's a very metaphysical way of looking at things, even physicists, astrophysicists, and cosmologists, the ones who study time and space, they actually come out and they will tell you that as far as they can tell from all the math that they can work out, that everything past, present, and future are actually occurring at once, and that we are just observing it bit by bit from a limited point of view. And so that's a little bit depressing, because it implies that, well, there is nothing but determinism, that no matter what you do, everything is determined.
Right. No free will. No free will.
Yeah. And that's the opposite side. A lot of people say, well, is it free will or is it determinism? But maybe, Jimmy, there is a third option. Maybe there are many timelines that are predetermined, but you have the free will to pop between those timelines and make decisions about what timeline you want to experience. I mean, for example, maybe there is another timeline right now where we're all not going through this pandemic situation. But maybe for some reason, we chose to experience this. Again, like you choose to see a certain type of movie. And honestly, this is not all bad. I mean, there is a silver lining to this situation. I mean, a lot of people are sort of rediscovering the things that they enjoy by being locked up in their house. Then I really feel sorry for the people who are locked up in their haunted house, and especially if they're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church.
And that's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. And we're going to continue this right after this break. Our guest tonight, Joshua P. Warren. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, it's all ghosts and the paranormal. Joshua P. Warren. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this short break.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Introducing the new Surfer Music app. Listen, Fadernauts, you know I love my music. This is my go-to for all things notes. The Surfer app is a brand new concept in music listening. Surfer is free, providing unlimited access to thousands of live streaming radio stations. Surfer is an exciting, interactive listening experience. Discovery and surprise are built right in. Surfer is your destination to discover and rediscover great live streaming music. It features high-quality audio streams, free access to music from thousands of live streaming radio stations, unlimited listening, unlimited skipping. You get a music visualizer, and you can also select your favorite channels. Get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Just search Surfer Music or click on the Surfer banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go Beckley Tappy.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
If you have hard water, the Lime Scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate Lime Scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Are you intrigued by paranormal talk radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I guess I Joshua P. Warren. Tonight, it's all ghosts and the paranormal. That's right. While you are locked down in your home, just like me, I got to tell you, Joshua, I have been having these crazy dreams. We're playing Diablo 3, which is hell on earth, man. It's a crazy game. It's a lot of fun to play, but like all things like that, and especially video games, you have the crazy dreams later. So I've already been having those, and then after tonight, and it makes me go back, and I always think about the first time. I've only seen one ghost. So for me, the first time I saw a ghost was the only time I have seen a ghost. But all of us got our start somewhere. What was the first time you saw a ghost?
That was a life-altering experience for me, obviously. And what's really, I think, most unusual about it is, My family on both sides were in the mountains of western North Carolina for hundreds of years. So I grew up hearing all kinds of ghost stories and Native American tales and folklore, but I never really experienced much of anything myself. Even though I started writing about all this when I was a teenager and publishing articles in the local newspaper and even publishing books, I never really saw anything ghostly with my own two eyes. And I reached a point after years of this where I thought, well, you know what? Maybe some people can see ghosts and some people can't. And I'm just one of those people who can't see them. I don't know. I don't have the right combination of rods and cones in my eyes, or my synapses are not firing off in a certain way. I just didn't know how to explain it because I believed people who said they had seen ghosts. But then all of that changed finally when I was in my early 20s. And at that time, I was already quite well known. I had written the very first book of ghost stories from the city of Asheville, North Carolina, which is now one of the most popular ghost tourism destinations in the world. And the book was called Haunted Asheville. So everybody knew I was the go-to guy if you wanted to talk about ghosts. So I got a call one day from a young woman who was a college student in Asheville who had just moved into this little old house by herself. And when she moved into the house, during the process of, unpacking her stuff, she called 911 because at one point she had turned and saw some kind of a figure in her house and thought somebody had broken in. And the cops came, and there was no evidence of anybody being there. And so that was the first red flag that there was something unusual about this property. Well, as time went on, she started seeing these shadowy figures more and more around the house. But more often than not, they would appear, or it would appear, as a cloudy, misty form. And this got to be so common that her friends would come over to the house and bring their cameras, and they would just take photographs like you wouldn't believe of these, wispy things just flying all around the house. And she even was dating a guy who it turns out I knew this guy. I went to school with him. Good guy. He went over to her house to take her out on a date. He was waiting for her to get ready, and all of a sudden he said that he felt like he'd stuck his finger in a light socket. Something just basically electrocuted him, and he ran out of the house, would not go into the house. And then she took a picture of him right after that, and in the picture you see this big misty thing swooping right through his solar plexus. It's amazing the pictures they were getting. So this started becoming really scary for her, however, when she began waking up in the middle of the night and this thing was in her bedroom. And then one night she woke up and it was in the bed with her. And that is when she said, "Enough is enough. I am out of here." And she ran to her car, still in her pajamas, and she actually drove off the property. There was a shopping mall nearby, and she drove to the shopping mall, and that's where she tried to continue her night's sleep. And when she called me, she says, "I can't stay in this house anymore unless something can be done to stop this, to get rid of this." So I told her, well, I'm not an exorcist. I'm not a Ghostbuster. I can't guarantee you that I can stop the activity. But I was so struck by her sincerity, I said, I'd love to come and take a look at your house, and let's just see how much we can learn about this. So
the stupid things you do when you're 22.
Yeah. So I went to her house. And I'm telling you, again, the pictures, I'm going to tell you in a minute how you can see some of these pictures. But anyway, the pictures were really striking. And she had a lot of her friends there, and they were all sitting around telling me about their experiences and, bearing sort of eyewitness testimony. And so I knew that this was something really significant. And so the first night I was there, however, I did pick up a few electromagnetic anomalies, but I didn't pick up anything that was so major that it sort of convinced me personally that I was going to see a ghost. But again, I know how rare these things are. Everybody seems so sincere. I decided to go back on a second occasion. So a few days later, I went back, and I was going around the entire house with a couple of different meters. And the house had a substantial attic. And I just so happened to be in the attic with another researcher. His name was Rob. And I started getting all these weird pulsations that were spanning the entire spectrum of the electromagnetic field on this particular meter I had. And I was trying to figure out what was happening. And then Rob said, "Josh, look." And I turned, and he and I were about 3 feet apart. And right there between us was this big blue-gray mist. It was just a cloud of mist just hanging right there between us in the air. And I'd like to say it had a slight glow to it, but that may have just been it reflecting the attic light. I'm not sure. But it was a striking looking thing because I was so close to it that I could see the surface of it wasn't curling and curving like smoke would. Instead, the surface of it reminded me of the facets on a gemstone. It was like sort of more of a geometric looking thing, and I could see these different facets sort of shifting around each other. And so I reached out and touched it.
What?
Yeah. I stuck my hand right in the middle of it, and it was icy cold. Now, this was in the middle of summer. It was icy cold in the middle, and it made the hair on my knuckles and everything stand up just like I'd put my hand up to an old television screen. And then Rob, who is completely opposite from me, he did the same thing. So he reached out and touched it. So now both of us, from two different points of view, are seeing this thing. We're both touching it. We have the same sensation. It's cold. It's electrostatic. And I felt, and I've said this before, and I think it's the best description, I kind of felt like a caveman looking at fire for the first time, because my brain is flipping through the filing cabinet of conventional explanations for what this might be. I'm trying to convince myself that there has to be some normal explanation, and nothing is popping up. And then as we watched it over the course of I'm sure 30 to 60 seconds, it started to get dimmer and dimmer and weaker and dimmer. And then I realized, oh, crap, I have a camera around my neck. This whole time I'd been so mesmerized, I'd completely forgotten that I had a camera around my neck. It was one of the first digital cameras. And so I took a photograph of this thing right before it disappeared. And I wish I'd gotten it in its full-blown state. But just to have captured it at all is a major achievement. You know, I can say I got a picture of the first ghost that I ever saw, and I touched it, and another guy was there, and he touched it. And if you want to see that picture, if you go to joshuapwarren.com, there's a lot of cool stuff on my site. I have to say, you can spend hours just watching videos and getting into all kinds of weird areas. But there's a section there called the Gallery of the Strange. And if you click on that, it gives you subheadings, and one of them is something like World's Wildest Ghost Photos. And if you just click through there, it's all free. You'll come across this picture I took of this misty form. So then this thing just dimmed, and then it was gone. And all the readings came back, they baseline normal. So I came walking down the creaky steps from the attic, and I looked at the young woman who lived there, and I said, okay, we saw it. And it was like the weight of the world had been lifted from her shoulders. To have that validation, I'm not crazy. And plus I said, look, I got a picture of the thing too. I saw the thing and I got a picture. And so that's when I was like, all right, this is real. This stuff is real. And so I started talking to her, and I started giving her some possible tips about how to stop the activity. A lot of it was pretty basic stuff. A lot of times you can stop this activity by running a humidifier, or by changing the placement of electrical appliances. You're trying to change the electromagnetic environment within which these things can build, or the electrostatic potential, which that's a very technical realm that, there's no sense in getting into that right now. I wrote about all this in my book, How to Hunt Ghosts. But anyway, she went through and tried everything, and none of this stuff worked. And then one day, out of the blue, I got contacted by a minister who was aware of my work, and he said, by the way, if you ever need somebody to help you come clear a location, I've done this before, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, so he met us over there. He went through some ceremonies. He did use holy water. He had created, he was a very unusual minister, because he also understood orgone and radionics and a lot of exotic technologies, and he had made them some special orgone pendants and stuff to wear. So anyway, he went through this whole process, and the activity stopped for like 6 months, but then it came back.
So holy water is only temporary.
I suppose, yeah. At least his was. So then it came back. So look, to this day, I haven't been in touch with her for quite a while. So I don't know if she still lives in that house and has decided to accept this or what. But when that happened to me, okay, that was the first thing that was a life changer for me, because that's when I realized whatever ghosts are real. But then it took another experience for me to really understand that this is not just a recording from the past. This is not just a misleading atmospheric phenomenon. This is an interactive, aware, conscious spirit in some cases. And that is because of what happened to me at Myrtle's plantation, which is a whole other story. But that's the first time I saw a ghost.
Well, I've got, right when you said Myrtle's plantation, I'm looking at Chloe. I just happened to be just scrolling through your photographs on the website, and here's Chloe of Myrtle's plantation right here. If you want to look at the images of this, it's very simple. Just go to JoshuaPWarren.com and then click on what do you call it? The Amazing World of Ghosts. What do you call it? The best ghost pictures.
Yeah, the heading there is Gallery of the Strange, and then once you get in there, there's a section called World's Wildest Ghost Photos.
World's Wildest Ghost Photos, and then I think it's page 3, page 4. What happened at Myrtle's plantation?
Okay, so this really hit me. This was actually scarier for me, a lot scarier, because when I saw the ghost I was just telling you about, at that point in time, I wasn't, as I explained, I wasn't even sure that I believed in ghosts the same way that everybody else did. You know what I'm saying? Like I'd never really seen one myself. And so that gives you a sense of insulation, like, well, this is something other people experience, but not me.
Right.
But then when I saw it and I realized, well, I can see a ghost. At least when I saw a ghost, it was in a very kind of clinical setting where I had another dude there and all these meters and the lights were on and all that. So it wasn't really scary for me. What happened to me at Myrtle's plantation was scary. This is possibly the most frightened I've ever felt.
Let me jump in. For everybody, go to World's Wildest Ghosts photos at Joshua P. Warren. And Joshua's got a video. I've seen this video a few times where he's alone at Myrtle's plantation. And you can check out the actual video over on Joshua's website. Okay, Joshua, continue.
So Myrtle's plantation is in St. Francisville, Louisiana, which is outside of Baton Rouge. It's in a very secluded, swampy part of the state.
Automatically haunted.
Yeah, well, it's been there since the 1700s, and a lot of bad stuff happened there over the years. I mean, they had slaves that were terribly mistreated and murdered. As a matter of fact, one of the plantation owners was killed himself. He got into some type of an argument with another plantation owner, and the other guy shot him in the chest with a shotgun, and he died crawling up the stairs of the house. In fact, in the house, they installed all of the keyholes upside down, which is very peculiar. It turns out that people at that time often believed that if they could confuse a ghost somehow, that it wouldn't be able to enter a room. And so by installing the keyholes upside down, that was an effort to prevent ghosts from moving through a room. So the place has layers and layers of activity. But yes, the most famous ghost is that of a servant named Chloe, who basically, the story is that she was for a period of time beloved by the owner of the plantation, and he allowed her to work inside the house. And that was the best place you could be, because you know what it was like being out in the field. Mm-hmm. But he started taking a liking to another slave, and she was afraid she was going to be replaced. This slave named Chloe, she was afraid she would be replaced. And so they say she concocted a plan where she would put a little bit of poison, basically, in a cake that he and his family would eat, and then that would give her an opportunity to nurse them back to health. And she felt like that might ensure her value. But the story goes that she put a little too much poison in, and that one or two of the kids died, and somehow he found out about this and severely tortured her and killed her, hanged her there on the property. So she is seen more often than any other spirit, but there are lots of ghosts there. So I was contacted by a television program, and they were going to have access to the place for a few days. They pretty much rented the whole place out, and they wanted me to go in and do a paranormal investigation. So I had never been there before, and I flew by myself to Baton Rouge, rented a car. When I arrived, it was storming like you wouldn't believe. I can't remember what year this was exactly. It's probably listed there. I've had so many experiences, the years kind of blurred together. But this was a long time ago. And so when I got there, I mean, I thought there was going to be a tornado or something. I mean, it was really, really bad. And here I am driving through the swampy area, and I almost died on the way there because I was the first car to reach a bridge that had just collapsed. So if I had not put my brakes on, and I was hydroplaning, if I hadn't put my brakes on a little bit, when I did, then I would have slid off and ended up in this creek or whatever. So anyway, by the time I got there, it's raining. It's like I say, it's raining cats and dogs. It's muddy, lightning's flashing. There's a pack of 15 black cats roaming the property like something out of a Stephen King novel. I mean, when I got there, there was a maintenance person there, and he gave me the keys and said, thank goodness you're here. Have a good night, and left. And left me. I was the only person on the whole property. And which was surprising to me. Heck, I could have stolen everything out of there. I could have gone. And but he was like, "Here you go, enjoy." Hit the road. So I got to stay in what they call the General David Bradford Suite. Now, this is a room with big high ceilings, probably 15-foot ceilings, big 4-poster bed like Ebenezer Scrooge would sleep in, these paintings on the wall that have the eyes that almost sort of follow you as you're walking by. I mean, Disney could not have created a better set than this.
Right.
So, and I was so tired. I was so exhausted. I'd already been up practically, a couple of days just getting prepared for this trip. And it was just, so I was very tired. But I realized this is a great opportunity. I have this place all to myself, by myself. And so there was a local diner that was open. I went there. I got some food. I came back. It was about 10 o'clock at night. And I figured, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn off every light in this whole place. and it's a giant place. And I'm just going to walk around this whole place in the dark with a meter in my video camera.
See, why do you do that? Why do you do that? Why, Joshua? Why? You're alone, and you when you pull up and you see the fountain in the driveway, and it's a stormy night and it's raining. Man, what do you do? I mean, oh man, the video is crazy to watch. Okay, continue. I mean, you've set yourself up for something to happen. Yeah. You know this, right?
I kind of feel like it's my.
Oh, are you there?
If there's something here. And so I walked around this whole place, and I'm telling you, just that alone, most people probably could not do that, honestly. But I made it back into my own room. This is the place where I'm going to be sleeping. And all of a sudden, my meter, this is a Tri-Field natural EM meter, it starts going bonkers. And I'm like, well, maybe it's just the thunderstorm and the lightning and all that. And then all of a sudden, I hear boom, 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 like somebody's knocked on the door. Okay, I about jumped out of my skin. And so I went over, and I thought, I guess somebody else. Who could possibly be here this late on this stormy night? I opened my door. There's nobody there. I looked out on the porch. There's no other car there. There's mud. There's no footprints in the mud. There's no evidence of. And I said, well, that was really weird. I don't know what you know. So I walk back into the room, and I'm rolling camera at this point, and then I hear on the wall, boom, boom, boom.
No.
And at that point, I realized something is happening here. And I said, if there is someone in this room with me, will you please do that again? Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, man.
And then I said, just to make sure, if there is someone in this room, will you please do that again? Boom, boom, boom. That is when the hair stood up on the back of my neck. It's doing it right now, just reliving this moment. And I had the biggest fight or flight instinct kick in that I've ever felt. There was a big part of me that just wanted to turn around and just get out of there at that moment. But I was able to swallow that lump in my throat and continue filming. And then I said, okay, can you do that over here? And I think I pointed to a table. Boom, boom, boom. Now it's knocking on the table. At this point, Jimmy, I have no doubt that there is a conscious, aware, interactive spirit that is invisible, that is in this room with me. Now, again, this is a life-altering experience because you start to realize not just that there is this thing in the room with you, but that this is even possible at all, that this can even happen, that all the stories that you've heard your whole life are true. At that point, I began trying to communicate with it and saying, can you knock once for yes and twice for no? And it could never do that. It was always in threes, doom, doom, doom. And on the video, you can hear it more or less at certain times. If you have headphones on, obviously it's better because it's a thud noise, boom, boom, boom. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if this is true or not, but I have always heard this creepy little story that ghosts that are evil knock in threes because they are trying to mock the Holy Trinity.
Ah, makes sense. Makes sense to me.
And I know we're coming up on a break here.
Yeah, we are. We got 15 seconds.
When we come back from the break, I will tell you how my night ended up.
Okay. Let's do just that. Our guest tonight, Joshua P. Warren, talking about Myrtle's Plantation. The video is over at joshuapwarren.com. I'll post up the direct link to it during the break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony. Damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Great night on the show. Joshua P. Warren is here. It's all ghosts and the paranormal tonight. Now, I just posted up the video in Twitter, and you can go straight to where it's right there. Oh, I said it's Alone at the Myrtles Plantation. It's actually called Alone in America's Most Haunted Bedroom. And like I said, everybody, when you watch the video, it's clear that you're pulling up to, you are at a haunted southern plantation on a dark and stormy, rainy night. You are alone. Just, whatever. I don't know what you're expecting, but it's going to happen, Joshua, on this night for sure.
Well, Jimmy, when this consistent communication sort of kicked in, which went on for hours, by the way, where I could say, knock on this wall, knock on this table, knock on this, and this thing could do it. I felt, if you'd asked me at that point, what are the chances that this thing is going to materialize and you're going to see it, I would have said 99%. I mean, I just felt so confident it was going to materialize. But I told you how tired I was. And so finally, I had to go to bed. And so I laid down in this bed. And the first thing I did is I called my wife, Lauren, and I could barely get a cell phone signal. It was one of those things where we're talking in snippets. And Lauren will tell you that she has never heard me that scared before. And we've been together for 23 years. That I was, she could tell like Joshua was really not happy in this situation because, Jimmy, it's one thing when you're standing there with your video camera and your meter, but I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night with some apparition standing there next to my bed. That's where I draw the line. And I'd already gotten my plan. Just like the woman I was telling you about before, I thought, okay, if I wake up and this thing is standing there next to the bed, screw this, I'm out of here. I'm going to go to my car and I'm going to sleep in my car because you're never more vulnerable than, when you're lying there asleep. And I do know that some of these things will feed off of you. And I couldn't tell exactly what I was dealing with here. I didn't know if it was good or evil or whatever, but honestly, aside from what I told you about the 3 knocks and how some people consider that to be a mockery of the Holy Trinity, I was not able to get a clear communication worked out with this thing. And so I lay down, and surprisingly, I went to sleep pretty quickly. And then the last time I remember it disturbing me was at 8:30 in the morning when it's banging on the headboard of the bed, boom, 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 right next to my ear. And here I am, a guy who has devoted most of his life to trying to see these things, to experience these things. And for the first time, I said, please stop. Please don't do this anymore. And it did. And so the next day, the film crew arrived for the TV show that we were going to shoot. And so they got there, and then, I get a normal knock on my door. I open it up, and I'm like, guys, you're never going to believe what happened to me last night. We're going to have a heck of a show here. And so I told everybody all about my experiences. And so that next night, I was ready. I had all my gear set up. We had cameras everywhere. And it was like the most peaceful, non-eventful night you can ever imagine. So that was a little bit unfortunate. But if you combine that experience with my other experience, okay, the first time I saw something materialize and touched it, and so I have no doubt that these things can become physically interactive. The second time I didn't see it, I didn't touch it, but it was interacting with me. What this shows me is that among the spectrum of things we can consider ghostly, it's all in there. The things that people tell you about that, they really happen. And there's a very creepy story that, I would like to share with you called The Butcher Knife and the Bathtub, which expresses another way that ghosts can try to communicate with you as well. So we'll get to that in a minute. But you can see how those two things made a profound impact on a guy who's coming at this from a skeptical but open point of view.
Okay, I've told the story before. I'm just going to make it quick. You're the guest. But I would certainly like your opinion on this. The only ghost that I have seen, and I'm assuming that it was a ghost, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I was at a friend's house, back house. I pulled up, and we were all meeting after the club closed at this house in Hollywood. And I pull up, and I'm sitting in my car, and I'm waiting for everybody. And I look over on the front porch. I see there's a big picture window, like maybe 6 foot by 4 feet tall living room right there. And I see the blinds or curtains or whatever it was pulled back, and I see this face look out at me. And I thought, oh, they're already here. Somebody's already here. Why haven't they know that I'm sitting in the driveway. I was a little angry. Why haven't they just, turn on the lights and let me in the house instead of making me sit in the car? I get out of the car, go up, knock on the door. Nobody answers. Knock on the door again. I'm saying, I know you're in there, come out. Nobody does. I go back to my car, pretty pissed off. At that point, the owner of the house, the renter of the house, pulls up behind me. She gets out. She's with a friend. And I said, hey, who's in the house? I said, I think your roommate's here, and she's not letting me in. And she goes, no, she's with her boyfriend, and they're going to be here in about 5 or 10 minutes. And now I'm freaking out the girl that lives in the house, right, the renter. And at that point, the roommate pulls up with her boyfriend. His name is Chris. He's an actor. And he walks up, and I'm like, dude, there's somebody in the house. And so we go up, we open up the door, we go in. Everybody's freaked out, Joshua. We go through that. We're thinking burglar, right? Something else, something criminal. House is locked up. There was no back door. Went through a 2-bedroom house. Nothing's there. I went back to the window and pulled back the curtains and looked at my car. I just wanted to see how far the curtains had to move, right, for this to happen. Mm-hmm. And I just got chills. I got chills. Something was in that window. The next day, it was an Asian landlord. He's there. And I come back, and I'm talking to him. The front house was unoccupied. And he had said that a year before, I think it was about a year before, that his son had committed suicide, lit himself on fire in the house. And I looked through the back door, and there was a burn spot on the floor. I don't know if it was the rug or wooden floors or whatever. I don't really remember. But I did see that, and we all freaked out. I mean, all of us at that point, now maybe, we went from criminal activity to was it a ghost that we saw the night before? And I've gone on record many times. I never went back. I was very uncomfortable. And that's my only ghost story, but it was life-changing. And to this day, I think about it. The face, too, by the way, it was dark, but was gray. It was very black and whitish.
Well, you know what, Jimmy? That experience, surprisingly, it does connect with this little email that I would like to share called The Butcher Knife and the Bathtub. And then we'll tie them together. You'll see what I mean.
Okay.
And of course, tonight I've been talking so far about my own experiences, but I want to share this with you because I know that you're looking for some spooky stuff, and I get tons and tons and tons of emails. I have for years, and I read every single email. I don't have the time to respond to every email, but I read them all. And this one was so interesting that I decided to publish it in an anthology that I put together years ago called It Was a Dark and Creepy Night. And so this is fairly short, and I smoothed it up a little bit. But this was sent to me by a man named Thomas Glenn Kelly, who is a wholesaler. He was living in Minneapolis, Minnesota in 1997. And he said, and again, I'm just reading this verbatim here. In 1997, my girlfriend and I were renting a huge, beautiful old duplex in South Minneapolis. My girlfriend worked the night shift, 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. I would go to bed just after she left for work, and she would wake me in the morning when she returned home. One morning, she woke me up and asked me why there was a butcher knife in the bathtub. I told her I had no idea, and we laughed it off. A few weeks later, she woke me up and asked why the bone cutters were in the bathtub. Again, we laughed it off, as the kitchen was adjacent to the bathroom, and the butcher block knife holder was on the counter just outside the bathroom. A month or so later, a similar thing happened. My girlfriend asked why the bone cutters were in the bathroom sink.
Oh.
This odd occurrence continued throughout the 3 years we lived in the duplex. A total of probably 10 times, somehow in the night, kitchen cutlery ended up in the bathtub or the bathroom sink, and once in the toilet. Toward the end of our time there, twice the butcher knife was laying at the foot of our bed. During our last weekend in the duplex, we threw a party and invited the downstairs tenants. They were a couple who had lived in the building for years, and during the course of conversation and drinks, the subject of our landlord came up. We both went white when they informed us that in 1968, our landlord's mother had committed suicide in our unit, in the bathtub, with a butcher knife.
No. And there's laws today. There's specific laws today that these things need to be revealed. But if that happened that far, then that story, you wouldn't have that disclosure necessarily, right? And so therefore, you're stuck for 3 years with this paranormal activity with no explanation. Had you been told this before you rented the house, right, it would have been a different situation.
And how would you like to be the person who is on lockdown in that duplex as we speak, Jimmy?
Right.
You know, people don't think about that. It's a serious subject, though. I mean, there are people who do live in homes that are so haunted, it terrifies them, but they don't have the means to move. And we're going to have a lot of creepy stories, I'm sure, that come from this period of time when people are forced to primarily stay on their property and in their home. But of course, the common denominator between that story and your story is suicide. And so this, of course, makes us wonder about why it is that often we have people who commit suicide sticking around. Because obviously when you've got the butcher knife showing up in the in various parts of the bathroom there, that's not like some type of an imprint that's replaying identically. No, it's different. Sometimes it's, you know, in the bathroom, sometimes it's at the foot of the bed. So it gives you this impression that there is some kind of an active, unrestful, you know, restless spirit that's still there. And in your case, you know, who knows exactly what you saw, but I get the impression that it was an aware spirit that was poking its head through the curtain there. And so we have to ask ourselves, if we're going to analyze the behavior of spirits, why it is that we have so many more stories about people who committed suicide or people who were murderers or dark figures in some way that tend to stick around. And here is some food for thought. It may be that when you die, whether or not there is some God there at the end of the tunnel of light that is going to judge you, if you believe that that is a possibility and you feel guilty about what you've done, then you might take advantage of any opportunity you have to delay that interaction. So we know that we live in a world where suicide it's taboo, you know, and there are religions that say, hey, if you commit suicide, you can't go to heaven. I mean, that's a really powerful, damning message that people are given in some cases. And so it could be that we end up with so many of these spirits because that if you have the option of just saying, I'm going to go through the tunnel to the light at the end of the tunnel and you know, experience my transition because I feel like I've done a great job and I have nothing to be concerned about, then maybe you're just going to, you know, that's what you're going to do. You're going to move on to be reborn into the next phase, the next vibration you've achieved. But if you look back on what you've done and you see the pain that you've caused, you know, even if it's the anguish of loved ones,
right?
at your funeral or whatever, then that might, like I say, inspire you to sort of stay put where you are. And that is one possible explanation for why we have so many of these dreary spirits that stick around.
Well, and we are all aware of, if for somebody to want to commit suicide and take their own life, they are in an emotional state, that is sad. They are in a very, very sad, the darkest depths of sadness, because that's why it happens. And you have that going on at the same time. And they are probably at a location, whether it's in their home, a certain room in the home, or outside at a certain place that they went to where they were emotionally connected. And all of that has to manifest into activity later on because of the energies that are at that moment. It just makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, also, we know that if we just accept what we're told by the physicist, space-time is a flexible thing, and it's relative. And so what I mean by that is we have, for example, in the Creepy Vegas Ghost and UFO show, a clip that was captured by Patrick Burke, who's a friend of mine who does investigations in the vicinity around Washington, D.C. and whatnot. And he captured what appears to be the imprint of a soldier at Gettysburg that is lifting its leg to go over a short wall that was there during the Battle of Gettysburg, but is no longer or was no longer there when he captured his footage. And that's why we believe this is an imprint, because that it's the figure is interacting with the environment as it was during the battle and not as it is today. But my point being, it could be that regardless of that particular one being an imprint, there may be spirits out there, entities as we'd call them, which means, an imprint is redundant and it's predictable and it does the same thing over and over like a recording. An entity is what I experienced at Myrtle's plantation, that is interactive, it's aware, it's unpredictable. It may be that there are entities out there that especially maybe died in the chaos of war. And it's hard for us to even imagine what it was like on a battlefield during the American Civil War when you can't hear anything. I mean, the first thing that happens is your eardrums are shot by all the cannon blasts. You can't really see anything because there's smoke all over the place.
Right.
It's hard to tell friend from foe. You're already in a state of complete confusion, and then if you die in the middle of that, it may be that you don't even realize that you're dead, and it could be that because space-time is a relative thing, that this 5 minutes that this individual is experiencing might be 150 years, might be 200 years. And so sometimes you might say, well, why is it that we have a ghost that's sticking around for hundreds of years? Why doesn't it make a decision and do something else? Well, that's because you're judging time by your own perspective. And so it could be that in many of these cases, we're looking at entities that are they're going through a short period of time, which to us is a long period of time, because all these things depend on your point of view.
Why don't we? A lot of Civil War apparitions out there for sure, and medieval, modern stuff. Why not Cro-Magnon? Right? Why don't we see ghosts that are 200,000 years old, or do we?
I have some pictures on my website of what may very well be dinosaur ghosts. And if you go back to that section we've been talking about, if you go to the Gallery of the Strange and you click on World's Wildest Ghost Photos, you will see at least 2 photographs on there of what may be dinosaur ghost. And this comes from South Carolina. Years ago, I investigated a property down there owned by a woman named Lynn Jackson, and she was reporting seeing these things that look like pretty much dragons or pterodactyls flying around her property. And sure enough, it turns out when you go back and you talk to paleontologists, there is evidence that those kinds of creatures once lived in that area. And so it may be that sometimes when people are describing what we would call a cryptid, which is an animal that may or may not exist,
right,
that they are actually talking about the apparition, seeing the apparition of a creature that is now extinct. As far as Cro-Magnon goes, I think we probably see ghosts a lot more often than we realize, because it's easy for us to tell that something is a ghost if it seems to be all translucent and glowy. But in many cases, ghosts do not appear that way. They look just as solid and corporeal as you and I do. Sometimes you might not know a person is a ghost except for that person's dress being very out of place and out of style. I know I've talked to a number of people who have moved into old houses, and when they see a ghost, they would not know it's a ghost if it weren't for the fact that the floor of the house is more or less at the knees of the ghost. And what you find is that over time, that floor level has been changed. It's been raised. And so sometimes they look just as solid as we do, but if it weren't for how they're interacting with the environment, you'd never know. I mean, how would you know when you see a cat running down the side of the road that disappears in the bushes? How do you know if that's a ghost cat or a normal cat?
You don't.
Yeah. So we may see ghosts all the time and just assume they're not ghosts, because probably most ghosts do not look like they're portrayed in Hollywood. Because in Hollywood you have to portray them that way so that everybody knows what you're talking about. But in real life, most of them probably you'd walk right by a ghost and never know it's a ghost.
Let's take a break right here, Joshua. Let's go into overtime, and when we come back, I want to talk about your hellhound hellhound encounter. I'm watching the reaction from everybody here on Twitter tonight, and everybody's really enjoying this, and most are saying that they are going to sleep with the lights on, as you should. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Joshua P. Warren. When we come back, Joshua's hellhound encounter. Stay with us. Short break. We'll be right back.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Kristen, Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Joshua P. Warren, heading into some overtime. I so needed this show tonight. I so needed this. Thank you so much, Joshua, for the disconnect or the connect, however you want to look at it. What a great conversation. And the Hellhound story. Now, I think all of us, I want your definition of Hellhound, because you can go all the way back to like the old blues singers and you know, Hellhound on My Trail, and the stories going back with folklore about it. Then we have like the Skinwalker Ranch Hellhound and these red-eyed, legless things bounding through the night, these apparitions. What's your definition of Hellhound?
I wrote a book called Pet Ghosts, Animal Encounters from Beyond the Grave, and the name's a bit misleading. The publishers thought it would sell better if it was called Pet Ghost, but it goes beyond just dogs and cats. I talk about all forms of non-human apparitions, including insects and dinosaurs and cryptids and all that stuff. And I coined this term phantomals. And because there was no catch-all term that would allow me to sort of easily discuss this broad subject. And basically, you know, a phantomal is an apparition that has animal-like qualities. And so a hellhound would be a phantomal with dog-like qualities that usually appears in some ominous fashion, but obviously transcends the norms of a biological average dog.
Right. Got you. Yeah. I have a hellhound. His name is Teddy. He's a Portuguese water poodle.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. He'll take you out, man. All 7 pounds of him. But, okay, what happened? What was your hellhound encounter?
So there's a kicker to this story. But let me start, and this is not something I've talked about a lot because it's just so weird that it's one of those things that it just doesn't come up a lot. But so for, 15 years or whatever, I hosted this radio program that I created called Speaking of Strange for Clear Channel /iHeart. And it aired on News Radio 570 WWNC in Asheville, North Carolina. Was the #1 show in its market for a long time. And frankly, I could still be hosting it to this day if I wanted to. But among all people, or of all people, Jimmy, that doing a regular radio program on a schedule, I mean, like that rules your life. I mean, that's a commitment that you have to make, and I just didn't have enough time to continue doing that. So I now do a podcast called Joshua P. Warren Daily. You never know exactly when it's going to air, but it's short and it's free. And I hope any of your listeners who go to joshuapwarren.com will listen to the podcast. And the one I just recorded yesterday, I even give out a magical phrase that is supposed to create physical vitality and protection. So you never know what I'm going to get into. Well, I was hosting Speaking of Strange one night, and the show would end at midnight on Saturdays. We'd start about, 9 o'clock, 3-hour show. And so the bars in Asheville didn't close until 2 a.m. So it was common for the producer and maybe some of the guests or whatever to go out with me after the show ended, and we'd have a nightcap at a bar or whatever. So one night I finished up a show. This was, live radio. And after that, my producer was not able to come out, but there is a lady named Shelley Wright, who is a graduate of my course. I have a paranormal investigation course. You can even take it online, as a matter of fact. And so investigator Shelley Wright, she was a sponsor of the show, and she was often there in the studio as a personality. And so she said, yeah, I'll go out and we'll have a drink. So we wrapped up at midnight, and she was following me as I was driving some back roads to get to this little off-the-wall bar. And I don't remember passing another car that night. And so at one point, I was just about to pull up to a stoplight at a bridge over the French Broad River. And as I'm approaching this stoplight, there in the middle of the road in front of me is a creature that I have never seen before. And again, I'm a guy who wrote a book about weird creatures, and I've never seen this one before. The best way I can describe this to you is it looked like a cross between a very large black dog and a black bear. It had enormous bulk. And I have, growing up in the mountains of western North Carolina, on more than one occasion, I have walked up on black bears in the wild. And that's a scary thing. And fortunately, every time the black bears have turned and run away. But I know what a black bear is up close and personal in the wild. This is not a black bear. This is not a dog. Big, hulking, black, muscular thing on 4 legs there in the road. It had a huge head, and its head looked like a bat. So exactly what you envision when you think of the bat, with the ears and the pig nose and all that. So immediately I know this is not something that I've ever seen before. So I slam on the brakes. It looks at me, and it has those just shining, bright, crimson red eyes that you always hear about. And I get the chill that goes down my spine, and I jumped out of my car, which is weird because I guess I felt like if I was in danger, which I very well could have been, at least I can just jump back in the car. But I jumped out of the car, and I always had a flashlight I kept there with me. And of course, Shelley is right behind me. So she has stopped, and she's leaning out her window saying, "What are you doing? What's going on?" And I said, "Shelley, get out of the car," because I want her to see this. As soon as I shine the flashlight on this thing, it races off into the bushes. And by the time she gets out of her car, she can hear it crashing through the bushes and stuff as it goes down toward the water. So I'm telling her there was some kind of creature here that I can only call a hellhound. And so we're shining the flashlights. We're waiting to see if we catch another glimpse of it. we probably waited there for 2 or 3 minutes, and again, there were no other cars around, and it did not reemerge. And I was like, I can't believe that. So anyway, we crossed the bridge. We go to this little bar. When we get inside, I start telling her about what I had seen. And that's when the light bulb goes off. And I'm like, oh, I can't believe this. That night, you know who my guest was on my show? It was Nick Redfern. And we had been talking about hellhounds and how that they often appear around bridges. And there's some kind of thing about water and bridges and hellhounds. And sometimes when you see them, it's good luck, and sometimes it's bad luck. You kind of have to just interpret it. But I was like, oh my God, I just spent like 2 hours talking to Nick Redfern about this stuff, and now one appears to me in front of this bridge that I'm about to cross. And so what I can tell you is that fortunately nothing bad happened to me after that. As a matter of fact, I would say a lot of good things happened to me, but that was the one time when I saw something that may not fit 100% into the hellhound mold, because this looked like something a little different. Hellhounds, they don't usually have a bat face on them.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to that for a second. When you shined your flashlight, it's one thing to see the bat head and the bat face in the shadows, but once it was illuminated, did it have a bat face?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
it absolutely. I mean, when I got home, I made a little sketch of it because, my wife, Lauren, she knows way more about animal species than I do. I mean, she's practically a professional zoologist. I mean, you can show her an animal and she just knows all about it. And she'd never seen anything like this. And so I have the misfortune of being the only witness. I wish that at least Shelley had seen it as well. But there was something about that moment that, I don't know, it just seemed like it was meant for me to see that thing. And it's possible that if I look back in retrospect and really sort of like check the boxes of things that have happened in my life, maybe I would figure out that was some kind of a trigger moment. But that is the weirdest creature that I've ever seen. And I'm telling you, it was in my headlights, it was in my flashlight beam, and it was something that is not supposed to exist, and yet it did, and it was right there, like they say, next to a bridge.
Now, could it have just been a giant Boston Terrier?
It'd be the biggest one I've ever seen.
Because those little guys have bat faces. They got the bat ears. They got the bat ears. I know, right? And this is something that when we look at mythology and we look at folklore, just about every culture's got this story. This is part of their heritage.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We have to also ask ourselves, though, when you see something like that, is it physical just because it looks like it's physical? Or if it is physical, is it only temporarily physical? So, I get into our arguments with a lot of these Bigfoot guys who are so determined that if they get out there on the right day at the right time and they've got a cage or whatever, they can get Bigfoot in that cage. And I am of the opinion that cannot be done, because I don't think that Bigfoot is a normal biological organism. I think that when it is here, it is. Yes, when it's here, it is just as physical. Like, you would look at that thing and you would say, that looks like, a gorilla. I can capture it. I can tranquilize it. But then it just disappears. And gorillas don't just disappear. And so I believe that really confuses people, because they see something that looks so physical, they think it's always going to be in this state, and it blows their minds to consider that maybe it can be that physical, but then turn around and become non-physical. And the only way that I can reconcile the stories from all these Bigfoot witnesses these stories being true with the lack of physical evidence is by saying, look, guys, yes, Bigfoot, when you see this thing, it's real. It's 100% physical. It's 100% real. It will leave footprints. It'll do, but then it can turn around and disappear. And that is why you're not going to ever get one in a cage.
Well, what's the most, before we wrap up tonight, I think about Creature Features, which was on Friday nights in Chicago when I was growing up. I think every city had its own version of Creature Features. But, and going back to the old, Dracula movies, and I think about all the way through to today about Romania and the Hostel movie series, which was all based there. Just a crazy area of the world that's based on truth. Dracula, Vlad the Impaler was real. That guy drank blood. He impaled people. And there's that haunted history. Is there a more haunted area on the planet than, say, like Romania?
Well, I am one of the people who has had the honor of going and spending a lot of time investigating haunted castles in Transylvania and Romania. I've had a lot of weird stuff happen there. I'll never forget one night I was in one of the castles that Vlad was imprisoned in, and they had a little chapel there.
What?
And yeah.
What? Yeah, okay. I wasn't expecting to go here, but okay. All right.
Yeah. We actually personally sealed off the door because I kept hearing a bunch of commotion, and there was a sarcophagus down below this balcony that I was standing on with Lauren and a couple other people. And something in that sealed off room kept throwing rocks at us. We even had video footage of this, rocks and pebbles, and it just wanted us out of there. And there was a time when I was in one of the castles that he controlled, and I had a laser grid firing up there, and you could actually see the form of what looked like a human move through the room and break up the laser grid. Romania is certainly a very haunted place, and it's kind of like a time capsule. But Romania is mainly haunted. You have other places like the Bermuda Triangle, like the Brown Mountain area, like some of the spots here around Las Vegas that are what I call warps. And what that means is that the laws of physics in general do not always behave like they are supposed to. So in other words, you don't just have ghosts, but you also have UFOs, cryptids, psychic phenomena, more reports of angels and demons and interdimensional things. These are like giant portals.
Right.
And so I think that those portal locations are the ones that give us the most information about paranormal phenomena, because whether we classify this as being one of those categories or another, what we're really talking about is the idea that we can interact with things that are sometimes only here for a limited period of time. And that's why all this stuff is still a mystery to us, because it's easy for us to put something in a jar and say, look, it's in the jar, it's sealed, it's going to be there tomorrow and the next day and the next day. We have a real problem understanding what happens when you put it in the jar and it disappears.
Yeah, and there isn't a castle in Romania, maybe not even in the world. Think about Edinburgh. But there isn't a castle in Romania that hasn't been the subject of death and carnage and torture all over. That's why they are built. They're built for battle. And those battles were horrific. And the things that went on in the cellars there, they all had jails, like the one you were in, Vlad the Impaler, in a prison cell in the basement of a castle. That place is haunted. That place has got residual garbage all over it, doesn't it?
Oh, of course. And we hiked up 1,500 steps to the ruins of Poenare, which was his main castle, and it's right next to just a sheer cliff and a sweeping canyon, and that's where his wife jumped to her death rather than being taken a prisoner. But when you see Vlad the Impaler, there's this famous wood carving of him sitting there in front of the Forest of the Impaled.
Yep.
We went to the spot where that wood carving was, that depicts that wood carving.
With everybody out front impaled on stakes.
Yeah, we went to the place depicted in that wood carving. It's a hill. And I climbed up this hill, and let me tell you, you want a little workout, you climb up to the top of this hill. Now, if you were Vlad the Impaler, if you were going to make a statement by impaling people, you would take the number one dude you don't like and put him at the very peak of that hill, right? And so I climbed up to the top of this hill with all this equipment, and I put it all down there, and everything just maxed out. So yeah, so that, and if you have an imagination and you can use that to time travel and envision what that looked like during his period, to be at the epicenter of the hill of the Impaled, where he was supposedly sitting down there and dining on rare meat. No. Couldn't do it.
Let's go back. So what, you mentioned the pebbles, but what was it like staying in that castle overnight? It just things going on.
Well, I didn't sleep there. We just stayed there and investigated all night. And, the pebble thing was actually quite pronounced, because they would sting when they would hit you, and they would just come out of the darkness.
Oh, man.
And yeah.
I have nightmares about that. I had them for years and years. This repeating dream of me and friends trying to get up this darkened concrete stairway in a concrete tunnel. That part is real. That stairway existed. But these pebbles would be thrown from the top of the stairs to keep us from going up. And they would whiz. By the time they got to us, they were like bullets, and they'd hit us and sting us. I had that dream repeatedly. Thank goodness I don't have it anymore. But this happened to you in real life. Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it happened, and again, we even got it on video, and you can hear these pebbles bouncing off of everything, and something just didn't want us there. And that's one thing that you find often when you go to haunted places. Sometimes you find that whatever spirits are there, they want to try to communicate with you. You almost feel like that your presence is, even though it's an awkward situation, your presence is perhaps welcomed in some way. Then you have this opposite situation where they don't want you to be there. And so when we think tonight about the people all over the world who are listening to this program, who are locked inside their homes, I think I would say, if you feel like that this thing is trying to get you out and doesn't want you to be there, I hope that they will email you or me. I can be emailed through my website, joshuapwarren.com. Let us know about that. But if you have the impression that whatever is in your home wants to communicate with you, but you've just been resisting it, this is a great time for you to sit down and try to make that contact. And something very simple that you can do is just take a candle and put that candle on a table and turn out all the lights, and make sure that you have closed off as many of the air currents as possible. And then you just speak out loud like you're talking to the invisible man, and you say, if you would like to communicate with me, please change that flame. And watch the flame. If the flame flickers or does something weird, that is a very easy thing for a ghost or a spirit to manipulate. And start with that and try to communicate. Hit it once for yes, hit it twice for no. See if you can communicate with what's in your home and tell me and Jimmy what happens.
I would love, and I would love to hear from anybody that would like to. Is there anything to worry about? Are you inviting anything in that you may that you can't control?
No, you're not inviting it. If it's there, it's there. What you're doing is possibly helping to resolve the situation. Right. There may be something you can do. Sometimes, and I could go into a lot of details, but I know we're out of time. But basically, there are things that spirits would like to achieve. Sometimes they want an object to be given to a certain person. Sometimes they want something to be or to not be on their grave. Sometimes they want to shed light or truth on something that is being said about them that is untrue. Again, that we can do a whole separate show on this topic, but there are spirits out there that I believe are in unrest, and they're sticking around here because they're trying to resolve a situation. And sometimes all you have to do is say, okay, what are you trying to tell me? And you get that out in the open. You have the communication. Like I say, you're not conjuring up something. It's there already. You're getting the conversation out there, and they might be able to tell you how to do something that will allow them to finally say, okay, my work here is done. This has been clarified. Now I'm ready to move on.
Is there, and we are out of time, but really quick, is there a way to, with the candle, maybe have a clear box around it? Not it has to have oxygen, nothing on the top, but to block any wind, to have it perfectly still, and then capture that on video. Is it okay with the spirits if we are videotaping this session?
Yeah, it doesn't matter how. Yeah, I think that it's good to record it.
Right.
But the thing is, you want to use some common sense. So if you sit there and you watch the candle, and you can breathe and see what it looks like. You can see what currents you have coming in your house through your vents. Right. Rule all that stuff out. Use common sense. It's fine to videotape it, but you should be able to detect the difference. But don't make it hard for them. The idea is that a candle flame is a plasma. And we know that plasmas are very, very receptive to spiritual energies. It's an easy thing for them to move, and it's something that everybody has on hand. So that's what you need to do. You'll figure out really quickly if this is something normal or if this is something paranormal happening.
I want to thank you for sharing that with us. I want to try it myself. Very, very. Joshua, what a great show tonight. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Jimmy, and I'm glad that we're moving forward and we're taking people's minds into a new paradigm, because that's what is important for us all to do. So thank you again for having me on your show.
Yeah, thank you. And again, JoshuaPWarren.com is the website. The links are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. All of Joshua's information, and including the Haunted Las Vegas show, and when it will fire up again, is over on his website. Thank you so much, Joshua. Give our best to Lauren. It's great to sit down and have a scary conversation with you. I really enjoyed it.
It's always fun, Jimmy. We go in all directions.
Joshua P. Warren. Thank you, Joshua. Have a great night.
Okay, you too, Jimmy. Thanks.
What a great conversation. It's very simple. JoshuaPWarren.com. Head over. Lots of stuff. Lots of videos. Lots of photographs. All of Joshua's books. Everything else you need is right there. JoshuaPWarren.com. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitola, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Music, Doug Aldridge. Intro, Spaceboy, SpaceboyMusic.com. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2020 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. Tomorrow night, right here Chuck Zukowski. You're not going to want to miss that. Until then, I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.